Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to day 3 of the 31 Days of Horror. DBougie86 back up in this, that's right. If you're following me, peeps, this is my volume 7 of my 31 Days of Horror. Can't believe I've been doing this for 7 years now, and very excited to talk about this movie that I picked today. It's a film from 1964 produced by Hammer Studios, directed by Terence Fisher, and it goes by the title of The Gorgon. Yes, actually a very interesting history. This is one of the first Hammer movies I actually ever seen. It stars Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, Barbara Shelley, who would later be known as one of the first women of Hammer. Yeah, pretty much the main setup of the Gorgon, if you've never seen it. It takes place in like this undisclosed town. I don't even think they actually name where this movie takes place. It's kind of like Hammer USA or Hammer UK per se, you know. It's some weird like European town, you know. And there's been murders happening. And the most recent murder was actually blamed on this young artist whose father actually ends up going to try to clear his son's name because the son actually, as he's hung himself. With kind of like similar remarks that we see, like the young lady as she's been killed. And his investigation implies there's rumors that there's this is like the resting place of one of the last Gorgons that ever lived. There were 3 Gorgons. Medusa was one of them. And this is Medusa's sister, Mogera. Yeah, I'll get into my thoughts on that in a minute because it's kind of funny. Yeah. So what ends up happening is he ends up getting killed by this Gorgon, this scientist, and his other son, ends up coming over to investigate what happened to his dad. And Peter Cushing's actually the main doctor of the village that this whole murders are taking place in, and he's being very suspicious, and he thinks that this Peter Cushing's character knows a lot more than he's letting on, you know, in that sense. And Barbara Shelley plays like Peter Cushing's assistant, who actually ends up kind of getting into a relationship with this young lad here, who ends up getting the help of his mentor, played by Christopher Lee, who ends up coming a little bit later in the movie. His role's not really that big in the film. It gets a little bit bigger near like the climax of the film, of course, where they try to investigate who this Gorgon is and what is going on in this village, pretty much. And that's pretty much the main setup of the movie that I'm going to give away on my setup of the movie without spoiling too much on it. Now, the very interesting thing about this movie is the way that you actually see people being turned to stone. There's a lot of gray face paint in this movie, which I kind of dig. You know, it's the time period this movie came out. They didn't have like the effects to actually show you somebody turning into actual fucking stone, you know. So I kind of respect that movie for not going down that route, and they did some, you know, kind of like different ways to show you, and they show you like the after effects. They actually show like people as statues and shit in the movie, which is kind of cool. I too kind of like the mystery, like this town's trying to cover all this fucking shit up, you know, that's going on in the movie, and I kind of like that ability, that idea. It's a legend that's going on, you know, and, you know, they're covering up these murders as they're going on for pretty much reasons that evolve around Peter Cushing's character. Like I said, he's kind of like the main human villain of the film because he actually has kind of an in with the police, and he has a kind of like a spy slash other assistant played by what is his name? Jack Watson, I believe his name is. I actually just watched him in another movie recently too called Tower of Evil, which is kind of cool. He plays like Radoff, which is Peter Cushing's male assistant slash guy who works at the hospital slash spy slash assassin. There's a kind of like an assassination attempt on our main like young lead of the film, and actually Christopher Lee ends up saving him from getting murked off, in that sense, with that scene happen. There's some cheesy stuff in like these early Hammer movies, I will not lie. Even though I do love this movie for what it is, it's got some cheesy motifs that you see in a lot of the early Hammer stuff, but it has some great atmosphere to the setting, and the score actually sucks you into the film as it's going on. And it's very hypnotic. I love the score. It kind of fits with the Gorgon feel to the movie, especially it's kind of like the Gorgon's singing to its prey, pretty much. I like that aspect of the score, and it's just a great movie. Not too much to say without spoiling it, because I don't really want to spoil like the ending of this one, but I'll just say this: it does end with something fucking awesome, and it involves a decapitation. Wow, that word is so hard to say at this time and day. Wow. But the Gorgon, I highly recommend it. If you have not seen it, it's some great early 60s Hammer that's it's actually one that's not really talked about as much as the others, in my opinion. If you think of like all the other classic like Terence Fisher era Hammer movies, like they talk mostly about his Frankensteins and his Draculas, and his even his Mummy movie gets talked about a lot, which is actually one of my favorite Mummy movies ever. Is the one he did, and the Gorgon's kind of like a very interesting movie because it's not like a monster that's usually talked about in these type of horror settings, and I like that aspect to it. And they do some different things with it. They don't just take it from like the Greek mythology. And I like that about this movie. Now, the reason I was laughing because when you find out the Gorgon's name is Mogera, is if you know that there's this movie called The Mysterians, where there's this giant robot named Mogera, So that's on rewatch of this after seeing The Mysterians quite a few times now, that kind of cracks me up in that sense. I know it's actually interesting because looking up research, Mogera is not even the name of a Gorgon. It was actually a Fury. So there's some interesting aspects where they take liberties and kind of change some of myths around to make it its own thing, which I'm fine with these type of movies. They don't have to be fucking accurate either in that sense either. As long as the movie's entertaining and fun and has some good shit going on within it, I'm all in, So I do recommend the Gorgon if you've never seen it. I actually do recommend this edition by Indicator too. I know Mill Creek actually just put this out on Blu-ray too. First one with a 2-pack, but I think it was with the 2 Faces of Dr. Jekyll. But I actually dig this edition too because it comes with special features. That's kind of why I picked up this like other release of it, including like a commentary with Sam Dean and Kat Ellinger, which is pretty fun. They always do fun commentaries. There's actually a great like little mini bio slash kind of interview with a historian about Barbara Shelley on this film. I dig the Gorgon a lot. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. Check it out. Good stuff. Alright guys, that's it for day 3. I hope you enjoy this, and I'll be back soon with another one tomorrow. So I'll see you then. Bye bye.